News.
Two male suspects were punching and kicking the victim while he laid helpless on the ground.
A defenseless man swarmed in Yaletown, and the plea for help from police. Also,
you never know. Better to have it than not have it, right?
free rapid tests finally available for British Columbians, but some say it's too late. And
I really don't have words for what my family has done for me.
the 21-year-old BC rookie looking to bring home another hockey gold for Canada.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a terrifying swarming in Yaletown. A man defenseless beaten by a group of strangers, and now police are asking for help from the public. Isabel Regem is live with us and has the details. Isabel, take us through what we know.
Anita, there seems to have been a lot of witnesses based on what we see in the video, and that's why police are releasing it in hope that there was someone who saw what happened and they will come forward. Police say the 44-year-old victim suffered significant facial injuries and had to go to the hospital. Now, we'll show you that video now, but a warning, it is disturbing and difficult to watch. This footage was taken by a bystander. It shows a large group watching and filming while two men punch and kick the man on the ground, who police say did not know the attackers. It happened in the Emery Barnes Park near Davie and Richards on Sunday around 11 p.m. The person who took this video flagged down a nearby police officer, but by the time officers arrived in the park, the suspects and the victim had already left. The 44-year-old man was later found by police after someone called 911 on his behalf.
Because of the large group was swarming or around the victim, passerbys may have thought that this may be a consensual fight or just a bunch of kids just, fooling around. That is not the case. This is, a stranger attack. Two men in their 20s were beating up on a victim, a 44-year-old victim who laid helpless on the ground.
Police add that one of the suspects, a 19-year-old man from Richmond, was found nearby and arrested. He has since been released from custody while investigators gather more evidence. They are still looking for a second suspect seen in the video. He's described as a man in his 20s, about 5'9" and 160 pounds. He was wearing a red hoodie, black pants, black running shoes, and was carrying a black satchel. Now, police are looking to talk again with any witnesses who saw the attack or who recognizes the suspect. They say it's troubling to see so many people standing around and not doing anything. And another thing to note, Anita, just 2 weeks ago, Vancouver police arrested a 30-year-old man after he allegedly attacked 3 strangers near that same park in Yaletown. Police have not linked the incidents to one another.
Isabel Regem live for us tonight. Thank you. Thanks. The family of a woman whose body was discovered last summer at a Pitt Meadows blueberry farm claims she was probably killed by a dog or multiple dogs. Ping Amy Guo's remains were found in August. The farm owner said Guo was a family acquaintance who had been asked if she could harvest leftover blueberries. At the time, RCMP and conservation officers said they were looking into whether an animal such as a black bear may have been involved. Now, her husband and daughter have filed a lawsuit in BC Supreme Court against the owners of the farm and the city of Pitt Meadows for allegedly failing to protect her. June and Kelsey Ping claim the city knew or ought to have known of an aggressive or vicious dog or dogs in the vicinity of the farm. Neither the city nor the farm owner have filed a response to the lawsuit. Well, some are calling it a little late, but BC is now catching up with the distribution of rapid antigen tests. Starting today, those 70 and older can pick up a free kit from participating pharmacies. And as Joel Ballard reports, demand seems to be high.
All right, Lynn, here's the two test kits for you.
Great. A busy morning at this New Westminster pharmacy. Phone calls and customers inquiring about free rapid test kits.
So there's 5 in each one.
Okay.
There's a nice little card and a pamphlet that tells you exactly how to use them.
The rapid test kits are free for seniors 70 years and older.
It's for people who are, say, meeting up with some friends and they just want to be the safest they can be. or maybe they're traveling soon, or they're going into work, and like I said, if they have a little bit of symptoms, they just want to make sure they're not bringing anything into work.
Extra protection against spreading the virus.
Basically, it shows that there's going to be a fair degree of responsibility on behalf of the users in that. So it's a good idea to spread them out in that, and you don't have to worry about having to go somewhere else. And I think it's very, very logical to do this. It's going to give a lot of people peace of mind.
And this couple already knows how they'll use it.
It's for a trip that we've been waiting for 2 years to take, and they won't renew again, so we're going to go for it.
It's welcome news by some healthcare professionals who have long called for the use of the tests as a way to determine whether you were contagious with COVID-19.
The rapid antigen adds an extra layer to say, I'm not infectious now. I could still be incubating COVID, but right now I'm not at a high viral threshold or viral load that puts me at risk of sharing the virus with other people.
Although Filiatro says BC is late to the game.
What we've done in BC is we have avoided using rapid antigen tests for the longest time. For some reason, our public health officials have basically discredited rapid antigen tests. And I think it's a big misunderstanding.
BC has faced criticism as provinces and countries around the world embrace the widespread use of the tests, especially over the holidays at the height of Omicron. Horgan says it came down to a lack of supply.
And we just didn't have them. And those that we did have, we were using, and Dr. Henry's been fairly explicit on this, we were using to supplement our PCR testing regime.
But as supply continues to grow, the province says the free kits will become available to younger British Columbians. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
The number of COVID-positive patients in hospital continues to fall, down 13 today to less than 600. There are also 6 fewer patients in critical care. 12 more people have died since yesterday. 1 new outbreak today at a healthcare facility in Fraser Health. The total ongoing is now at 27. The BC government has launched a new ministry for the province, and a former Tofino mayor is the first to take on the newly created portfolio. Vancouver Island MLA Josie Osborne is now BC's first Minister of Land, Water and Resource Stewardship. The new ministry is carved off from the Ministry of Forests and focuses on natural resource sector goals. It will involve collaborating with First Nations on natural resources. That includes building a co-managed land and resource management system, leading a clean drinking water strategy, and overseeing the Species at Risk program.
The fundamental part of being British Columbians with our abundant natural resources is ensuring that we're stewarding those effectively, not just for this generation, but for generations to come. And for too long, the development of our natural resources have not focused on the people who own them, British Columbians.
The fisheries, aquaculture and wild salmon files will also be moved under the new ministry. Nathan Cullen is now the Minister of Municipal Affairs. The Beijing Paralympics start 1 week from today, and Canada's para-hockey team is always a medal threat. This year, there's one lone player from BC, Smithers goalie Adam Kingsmill. As Karen Larson reports, the 21-year-old rookie is looking to bring home another hockey gold for Canada.
Adam Kingsmill has skated a unique path from Smithers to the Paralympics in Beijing. At age 2, he lost his right leg in a lawnmower accident, but that didn't stop him from stopping pucks in high-level minor hockey, playing on a prosthetic, even trying out for the AAA Caribou Cougars. That's when Hockey Canada got wind of his talent and came calling with the question, would he ever consider playing para-hockey?
Hockey Canada picked it up, which was very fortunate for me, because that year I ended up breaking my good leg, or my good femur on my good leg, and that kind of ended my my hopes there for playing stand-up hockey more. And then I got a phone call from Hockey Canada asking if I wanted to come try sledge hockey. Got flown out to Toronto to come try it at the development camp, and I think I fell in love with the game right then and there.
Once he got the hang of the equipment, Kingsmill said the adjustment from stand-up to para-hockey was pretty straightforward. A few weeks ago, the 21-year-old was selected for Team Canada, news he shared with his parents from his pandemic training bubble in Calgary.
I don't have a whole lot of words other to say thank you.
Well, congratulations. You deserve it.
They've been phenomenal. I really don't have words for what my family has done for me, and I get a little bit choked up talking about it. But you know, they've been my rock throughout this whole entire process.
Canada brought home silver from the last Paralympic Games. Kingsmill says the goal this time around is to match what the Canadian women did in Beijing. Team Canada opens the Paralympics against rival USA on March 5th. Karen Larson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Okay, Granville Street was the site of much fanfare today as a Filipino fast food chain opened its first ever location here in BC. This was the lineup today to get a taste of Chicken Joy fried chicken from Jollibee, an iconic fast food chain in the Philippines akin to McDonald's. Many got up bright and early, with some having lined up overnight. That queue ended up wrapping around the block throughout the day. And for many Filipinos, it's a nostalgic reminder of their motherland.
I'm very big fan, super fan, 100%.
For me, Jollibee here in Vancouver is like a unity for like culture for Filipinos. So it's more than just like a food for us.
It's like a home away from home. So it just hits right there, hits the spot. And now I feel like this is a victory for the Filipino-Canadian community.
There are more than 1,000 Jollibee locations around the world. Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast. Joe, you going to brave the lineup in the next few days? Check out a chicken sandwich?
It does look good, Anita. I was looking at the menu and I was wondering what saw so many people posting the mascot, that giant Jollibee today. So maybe I'll give it a couple weeks, but I have got to check that out. For anyone who was thinking of dining in this weekend, not the worst idea. We are seeing a big shift from sunny and cold to showery and warm. Take a look at the temperatures. We've got one more beautiful, clear, but cold night across the south coast. Now, special weather statements have ended. We're not going to see temperatures dip quite as cold as they have been. A 2 right now at YVR. And watch as I take you through the overnight. Temperatures will get down below the freezing mark by a couple of degrees. See if I can fast forward you here. There we go. Get down a couple of degrees, but not the -5, -6 we've been seeing there, with a bit of a wind chill, maybe feeling like -7. But then we'll be quick to warm up as we head into Saturday's forecast. That's when things really change, though. Check out the satellite. We've got that high pressure leading to cold and sunny air. That's been our story all week long. That is sinking south and moving east as the Arctic air mass retreats. And this general southwesterly flow is going to be our story for the next week at least. I think the rain will hold off until later tomorrow, but expect a cloudier start to your Saturday. And we've got at least a couple days of rain ahead. But Anita, that does come with double-digit temperatures. I'll time it all out coming up.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
I want to turn your attention now to the ongoing situation in Ukraine. The Russian and Ukrainian governments signaling an openness to negotiations. Both countries are yet to decide a time for talks, but it's the first glimmer of hope for diplomacy since the invasion began. Let's take a look now at a live shot of the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, where it's just after 4 a.m. on Saturday. The city has been under missile attack in the last 24 hours as Russian forces advance toward it. NATO says it will continue to send weapons to the Eastern European nation, but for now, the alliance has ruled out direct military intervention. And as Sasha Petrusik tells us, Ukrainians have now been left to face the Russians on their own.
Crowds trying to leave from the Kyiv railway station were so thick today. Soldiers fired in the air to keep order. As shells from advancing Russian forces exploded in the suburbs, others jammed the roads to escape. But in the capital today, many stayed.
We want to show to all the peoples, to all world, we are not scared. We will defend our country.
Lines of armed civilians ready to stand up to whatever Russia throws at them as they brace for a ground attack. Teams of soldiers burning government documents so they don't fall into enemy hands. Defiance is the sentiment in this besieged city, expressed overnight by Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky. The citizens are here and we are out here, he says, to defend our independence. We will fight to the end. Indeed, Ukraine's damaged but partly functional air defenses reportedly managed a direct hit on a Russian aircraft. One victory in a night of Russian missile strikes. Zelensky has offered to negotiate with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who first seemed to agree, but then insisted that the Kyiv leadership be replaced by the Ukrainian army. Take power in your own hands, he told the generals. It will be easier for us to negotiate an agreement. Putin brushed aside threats of sanctions from the West, the kind European Union ministers and the United States aimed directly at Putin himself today.
Let me flag that the only leaders in the world who are sanctioned by the European Union are Assad from Syria, Lukashenko from Belarus, and now Putin from Russia.
Ukraine wants that, but it says military help is much more urgent. Weapons, ammunition, and even fighters if any foreigner dares volunteer. Defiance may not be enough in Kyiv, where a woman sings the Ukrainian national anthem while cleaning up debris from last night's missile strike. She ends with a tearful, "Long live Ukraine." Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Toronto.
Many of the streets in Ukraine's capital now look largely empty and eerily quiet, only interrupted by gunfire and loud booms as the Russian invasion approaches Kyiv. Residents have an extremely difficult choice on their hands: hunker down or flee. Margaret Evans offers a glimpse of a deserted town where those still in the city are bracing for the worst.
Ever since this morning, really, the streets here have been really, really quiet, quieter than we've actually seen them before now. I could actually walk straight through this intersection without any cars hitting me. Just yesterday, the day before, we saw lots of traffic coming along here, people trying to leave town. Now, if you do see people walking, they're usually dragging their suitcases with them, carrying pet carriers, trying to get out of town. There are some shops open here, and you do see people kind of stocking up, but getting back to their houses. The air raid sirens were going off quite consistently again this morning, and it speaks to the tension in this city as the perception of the Russian troops getting closer and closer to the Ukrainian capital really begins to take hold. There's still a lot of speculation here about whether the Russian President Vladimir Putin's ultimate plan is to come to the capital and remove the current leadership, to install a pro-Russian. I think you can just hear some of the booms going on in the background. It gives you a sense of why people are so nervous. But part of the speculation is that what's happening with the Russian troops getting closer is what they want to do is to be able to remove the president, the Ukrainian president, from power, put in place a pro-Russian regime. The Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky, said he is going nowhere, that the Ukrainian army is continuing to fight, and of course there's been a general mobilization. People between the ages of 18, men between the ages of 18 and 60 can't leave the country, but there are a lot of people who are volunteering as well, and the government has said if you want to fight, we'll give you a gun to do that. In the background of that, there is some hint of talk about potential resumption of diplomacy, with notes coming from the Kremlin saying they may be willing or ready to talk with the Ukrainian leadership. But with the fighting continuing, the sound that you can hear in the background, or that we can hear, a lot of people believe that that is not a genuine offer. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Kyiv.
And for the moment, that fighting that Margaret just mentioned, well, most of it is happening within Ukraine. But Ukrainian forces say they are pushing back by launching a missile attack across the border, causing heavy damage to a strategic airbase in southern Russia. But as Briar Stewart explains, it's a claim that Moscow disputes.
I'm near Milarova, close to the Russia-Ukrainian border. This is a very quiet area. There are roosters over there that I can hear, but also quite frequently we can hear the low rumble of fighter jets in the distance. Now we're here because up that hill, up that road there is an air base, and this morning it was damaged in an attack. There was some confusion about whether it was a missile or a drone strike, but Ukrainian officials say that they were responsible for striking the Russian military air base, and Ukraine says that they damaged a number of aircrafts. Russia has not put out an official statement on it, but Russian media are reporting that no aircrafts were damaged. At this air base are based Russian fighter jets, so it is a strategic location. And while there has been some reports of shelling coming from Ukraine to Russia, it's been very, close to the border and quite sporadic. So this was really kind of the first larger attack we've seen in Russia by Ukraine. And as I mentioned, this is a quiet area, mostly pensioners around. We talked to a few of them that were standing by, and they said that they did hear something in the morning that sounded like thunder, and there were a lot of rumors going around. As far as Russian military goes, I'm about 3 hours north from where we've been reporting all week in Rostov-on-Don. And as we made the journey up here on the road, we passed a few Russian military vehicles. They all had the white Z at the back. That's the vehicles that are headed into Ukraine. We saw a couple of helicopters as well, a helicopter flying over here. And as we've been saying all throughout our reporting on this, the Kremlin and the Russian media are working very hard to craft the narrative that's out there about the invasion of Ukraine. Today, the Russian Defense Ministry said that there's been no Russian soldiers that have been killed so far. That's dramatically different than what Ukraine is saying. They're saying that there's over 1,000 in the last 2 days. So it is very difficult to tell just where the true details are when you have an evolving situation like this, but particularly when you have the propaganda machine in Russia working overdrive. Now, as far as the Kremlin goes, officials have said that President Putin is willing to negotiate with Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, but only if Ukraine lays down its arms and goes to Minsk to negotiate. Well, Zelensky has said he will not go to Minsk to negotiate, and of course Ukraine has been saying this whole time that they're going to fight back. So we don't expect there to be any kind of negotiation soon, and we do know that there are still tens of thousands of Russian troops near the border ready to head into Ukraine. Briar Stewart, CBC News, near Milarova, Russia.
And Canada is expanding its sanctions in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. They will directly target President Vladimir Putin, his top aides, and his allies.
We will be imposing sanctions on President Putin and his fellow architects of this barbaric war, his chief of staff and foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov. These men bear the greatest responsibility for the death and destruction occurring in Ukraine. Additionally, I am confirming Canada's support to remove Russia from the SWIFT payment system, a critical part of the global banking system. Canada is also announcing that we will levy additional sanctions on Belarus and its leaders for abetting President Putin's invasion of a free and sovereign nation.
The Prime Minister says Canada is prepared to take further steps as required. Ottawa will also be matching any donations made to the Canadian Red Cross Ukraine Humanitarian Crisis Appeal up to a total of $10 million. And here in BC, the consequences of Russian aggression can be found in liquor stores where Russian liquor is now being pulled from our shelves. Starting today, BC liquor stores and provincial liquor distribution centres will stop carrying Russian liquor products. Deputy Premier Mike Farnworth says the immediate halt of the importing and sale of these Russian goods is part of a show of solidarity with Ukraine. BC is also contributing $1 million for the Red Cross to support the people of Ukraine who are suffering. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues, we're hearing more stories of how civilians are caught in the middle. And here in BC, there are a lot of people with family in Ukraine, including Father Mikhailo Azorovich. He is the pastor of the Holy Eucharist Cathedral in New Westminster. Father, what's the situation for your parents right now?
They are currently safe, hunkering down in their home outside of Ivano-Frankivsk. It seems a little bit calmer now in my hometown after that initial bombing and initial invasion and ballistic missiles coming into the airport. So far, the city seems to be a little bit safer and calmer place, as opposed to many others across Ukraine where I hear many stories of horrible catastrophe happening.
And I know your dad is under 60, so has he been called to fight?
Not as of now, right now. So there are, during general mobilization in Ukraine, there are different levels of this invitation calling of the people. So he doesn't fit yet. So first there's reservists and other men who had experience in military or in serving army, and then another level, and then it would be him. So as of right now, he's still home, but preparing.
Are you worried about that?
I am worried for him. Yeah, it would be a lie to say that I'm not worried at all, especially when I look at my sons and, you know, how to tell them about their grandfather, who was just visiting us for Christmas here in British Columbia. But as things evolve, I feel more calm with it and even proud of my dad. Mixed bag of feelings there.
Part of your job involves you needing to stay calm for those around you. I'm sure you've been of help to many people in your congregation. Can you talk about what you've been hearing from them about their concerns and their loved ones?
The stories, the amount of stories and the measure of tragedy is so big in just last 48 hours. It's anywhere from like the young man I was with for last day now. His wife, they live here, they work here. His wife and 1-year-old daughter was in Ukraine on vacation, scheduled to come to British Columbia on this weekend, and the war broke out, and the flights canceled, and she miraculously was able to escape to Poland and is scheduled to come here already on Sunday. So, being with him in this moment where uncertainty for his wife and his 1-year-old daughter, Sophia, that's incredible.
And is there anything that's surprising you about the way the people in Ukraine are handling the situation right now?
I just talked to a young international student from Ukraine. She's 16 or 17, I believe, and her dad is in military in one of the cities in central Ukraine. And I was, talking to her saying, you don't have to suffer alone. If you need somebody to talk to, come be with us, come pray with us. You're not in it alone. And if there's any help we can provide to your family, please let me know. And her answer was, nobody's fleeing that I know, she says, and they're going to be staying there. And my dad will go fight, and people are ready to defend themselves. People are ready to stand up to the aggression. They are ready to show who they truly are, an independent nation that is aware of its identity as Ukrainian people. So that's inspiring, and I'm not surprised, but I definitely am inspired by such reaction of people in Ukraine.
Yeah, I've definitely been hearing a lot of inspiring stories as well. Father, thank you for taking the time with us today.
Thank you so much, Anita.
Another convoy organizer denied bail. Why Pat King is staying behind bars for now. That's next. Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, we've heard of rock climbing, but imagine if that wall was made of ice. The sport of ice climbing has been growing in global popularity for more than a decade. And over in Alberta, it's really taking off. Take a look.
The Alberta Rockies are becoming an ice climbing destination, with people coming in droves from around the world. They say the sport is easy to pick up, so I'm here to put that to the test. But first, let's go to someone who knows what they're talking about.
So my name is Will Gadd. I'm 54 years old, live in Canmore, Alberta, and I'm a guide, athlete, and speaker. Over the last decade, ice climbing has really grown exponentially. It's gone from a small, obscure sport to a lot of people out in the mountains now ice climbing, which is great. So we see climbers in the Rockies from all over the world, basically every country in the world just about. And they're coming here because we have really good, reliable conditions. And they can plan on it. You can come here and say, second week in January, you're going ice climbing. And that's no longer true in the Alps or some of the other ice climbing areas in the world. If you're in the Alps in Europe, you used to have a big, solid ice season. and now it really doesn't. It's got sort of 2 weeks here, 3 weeks there, and it's just not as reliable. I think for a lot of people right now, climate change is a theory. And for me, it's not a theory. I go out in the mountains, the glaciers are receding so fast, and I work with the scientists. This has never happened at this speed before. And then I see the ice climbing season change globally, and I see people coming here, and they're making a decision about climate change with their dollars. They know it's not reliable in Europe, so they come here. The guides are doing the same thing. Here in Alberta, we have a cold enough climate that if it gets a bit warmer, oddly, it's actually better for ice climbing. The main reason people come to the Canadian Rockies to go ice climbing is we have great ice, and we have a lot of ice climbers here, so there's a community, and then there's good access. So you put those three things together, and it's just a great place to go ice climbing. You don't need to be any special shape. It's helpful if you're sort of generally athletic, but I've taken people who, are as wide as they are tall up ice routes, and they've done great. So honestly, if you can hike up and down stairs, you can have a good time ice climbing.
Well, now it's my turn. I'm here at the Edmonton Ice Climbing Wall to put that theory to the test that a beginner can pick up this sport. Wish me luck.
Climb on.
Climbing.
Good job, Emily.
Another one of the key organizers of the massive protest in Ottawa has been denied bail. Pat King of Alberta will remain in jail. The Justice of the Peace has ruled there is a substantial likelihood King will reoffend. He also doesn't believe the person offering to take responsibility for King will be able to hold him to his bail conditions. The woman offered to put up $50,000 for King's release. She says she's known him for about 4 weeks. Another organizer, Tamara Leach, was denied bail earlier this week. Well, even though Ottawa's downtown streets are quiet now that the trucks have gone, some residents swear they can still hear honking. Avinta Anand is looking into how prolonged exposure to the noise may create temporary sound trauma.
After 3 weeks of incessant honking, the downtown area is finally free of the truck convoy. But one resident says he's still haunted by the honking of horns.
It's not very rational, obviously, like you're not actually hearing honking. So it's hard to believe that you are feeling that, but the constant on-edgeness and sort of just, I don't know, I've been feeling like tremors and stuff, and whenever I'm going outside again, you have this sort of fear.
The noise Zakir Virani hears is called phantom honking, and he isn't the only one experiencing it.
When you hear that noise, it's like, uh-oh, are they back? Is there a rogue convoy coming back, right? And so then you start going on Twitter and seeing, oh, what's going on, right? And that, it's just that sort of constant loop.
The excessive noise during the protests is what prompted a class action lawsuit by residents, desperate to silence the horns. The trucks are gone, but that lawsuit is still before the courts.
These sounds become sort of embedded in the mind, kind of like the way trauma leads to flashbacks, and even long after this has happened, the brain is still in a hypervigilant state and expects more honking. And so at times it can even imagine it so clearly, it almost sounds like what it did originally. It's sort of an echo of the original sounds, and it can be really disturbing to people.
Experts say continued exposure to loud honking can induce a mild form of trauma that can have people hearing things that aren't there. The expert we spoke to says hearing phantom honks is temporary, and if people are struggling, to change where you sleep, listen to music, or put on white noise before bed. He says if the problem continues, to go see a doctor or mental health professional. Avantika Anand, CBC News, Ottawa.
A conference held for the first time this week is working to bring the Black business community and bankers face to face. The aim is to help Black Canadians overcome the impacts of systemic racism and open up new opportunities. Organizers hope to make the summit an annual event. As Kyle Bax explains, they're also setting up working groups to push some of the innovative concepts forward.
When he needed a bank loan to keep the lights on and door open at his studio last year, this photographer was irritated by the process. As an immigrant from Nigeria, he didn't have all the paperwork the bank wanted or understood a lot of the terminology in their forms.
Can I get somebody who's going to speak to me to this particular question? But you never get those things.
Nice one.
Frustrated, he instead turned to friends and family for help.
I'll have you look a little bit in the dark.
His experience isn't unique, as many in the Black community face difficulties accessing funding from banks. The owner of this gift boutique tried to open the shop 15 years earlier, but didn't have collateral for a loan. Like many, Jackie Cassandi didn't have access to generational wealth.
So a large percentage of us don't have homes, don't have parents who can co-sign loans for us.
So she had to keep working other jobs and save up her money. Today, she's a leading voice calling for change and an organizer of this, the Black Business Summit.
Morning, BEBC Black Business Summit.
Bringing together bankers and thousands from the Black business community, discussing how to improve loan applications, unlock other funding, and access more financial services.
All the communities that are left out can actually start getting a hand up.
The federal government launched a nearly $200 million loan program for Black entrepreneurs last year. Most major banks have similar funding programs, but they are still new and will take time to have an impact.
We're doing it differently as opposed to in the past, where we felt that it was just through sponsorship. We have to mentor. We need to be in the community. We need to start early.
Even those who have jumped through hurdles still face challenges. At this point, adding a second store location isn't possible, Cassandi says, because the financing available isn't big enough.
I still don't have collateral, and banks cannot count my current business as collateral. So those are the things we're talking with businesses with, is like, can we relook at the system and probably build an alternate entry point?
Black entrepreneurs like her say they don't want a handout, but more open doors when they need a bank's help. Kyle Bax, CBC News, Calgary.
The new CBC television series The Porter premiered earlier this month. The show features a nearly all-Black cast and crew chronicling the story of Black railway workers in the 1920s. It was made in collaboration with BET, and as Jackson Weaver tells us, it's a storytelling milestone for Black Canadians.
Jazz, gangsters, and rum running, all parts of The Porter, a new drama series from CBC and BET, and a rare showcase of Black Canadian stories on screen.
Nice, and cut. Hey, Paul, can we hold that 1 second?
And putting that history in a TV show, inspired by the lives of train porters in the 1920s and created by a nearly all-Black cast and crew, is making history of a different kind.
I couldn't be any more prouder. We're seeing a show from a Black perspective, which I think is kind of rare.
If I wanted to get the porters into a union, what's the first thing I should do?
Those porters fought to create North America's first ever Black labor union. But while reporting the story, I made a personal discovery of my own. A newspaper article showing that my grandfather was a porter too.
This part is being reordered.
This filmmaker says that surprise is a symptom of a larger problem. Too often, Black history in Canada focuses on one thing, slavery.
When we did get taught something about Black history, it was always the Underground Railroad. That was it.
There are these huge omissions that really color your sense of history.
To help fix that, Sud Sutherland is making a new documentary of Black Canadian stories, part of a growing push of productions uncovering and celebrating untold parts of this country's past.
So we thought, well, there's more to Canada and its history than the Underground Railroad.
And he's not alone.
Did you know that Toronto's first taxi cab service was a Black-owned business?
Viola Benjamin started a TikTok series telling stories that hundreds of thousands are viewing.
Not enough of our Black history shared. We do not have the conversations that we should. The Black experience is not acknowledged. And in my day-to-day, I think it's very important. So I'm going to be that person who sheds light, starts conversations, even if it's difficult.
And the hope is a wave of new productions like The Porter will help unpack more stories about the Black Canadian experience. Jackson Weaver, CBC News, Toronto.
They're meant to help put order and stability into your life, but a CBC investigation reveals some potential problems with hiring a life coach. That's next.
In Moscow, the Soviet leaders have taken a tough new line on an explosive issue. That issue is regional autonomy. The Kremlin had promised Soviet republics far more freedom to govern their own affairs, but now it's backing off. The new line, made public today, says Moscow must retain the right to strike down regional laws. There's also some talk about making Russian the official state language across the entire Soviet Union. And that's bound to anger nationalists in the country's rebellious republics. And as the CBC's Don Murray reports, the wildfire of ethnic nationalism has now spread to the Ukraine.
On the hill dominating Kiev, the monument celebrating Russian-Ukrainian friendship seems, at a time of growing Ukrainian nationalism, a curious Soviet relic of the past. So now does Vladimir Sherbitsky, for almost 20 years the tough Brezhnev-appointed boss of the Ukraine, dumped from the Politburo Wednesday by Mikhail Gorbachev. Few Ukrainians mourn his dismissal. It was clear, he says, that Sherbitsky wasn't doing any good. He should have been retired long ago. Echoing that, a newly elected Ukraine Reform deputy to the National Parliament says the Ukraine Communist Party has to be cleaned out. The party apparatus, he says, has to be completely overhauled and at least 60% of the party workers replaced. In Kiev, the political battle lines are being rapidly redrawn. The struggle is no longer over the political fate of one man, but over the future of the Ukrainian language. In the streets this weekend, people crowded to read appeals posted by the new Ukrainian People's Front, Ruch. Appeals for Ukrainian to be enshrined in law as the Republic's only official language. Until now, Russian has been the language used in government and taught in schools. At the same time, the Ukrainian Writers' Union was holding an emotional meeting to endorse the call. To the delegates' surprise, the Ukrainian Communist Party Ideology Secretary, Leonid Kravchuk, told them he now supported the idea, a clear sign his party is worried about alienating nationalist support. But later in an interview, he rejected a key Ruch demand for the direct election of the leader of the Ukraine. A society has to reach a certain level of democracy, cultural democracy, to do that, he says, and we haven't yet developed those mechanisms. This weekend, just 2 weeks after its founding Congress, Ruch held a large rally to back its language demands. It was an emotional call to arms in which one speaker denounced the Ukraine Communist Party as a mafia, to enthusiastic applause. Ukraine nationalism is now an organized, articulate force. In a year of nationalist upheaval around the USSR, this may be the most significant change of all. Don Murray, CBC News, Kiev.
Here are some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
You know, the video is quite disturbing. It's quite gruesome. It's very troubling to see something like this, and it's troubling to see a bunch of people standing around and not doing anything.
Video footage released by police show a defenseless 44-year-old man in Yaletown last weekend being swarmed by a group of men. It happened just after 11 p.m. February 20th at Emery Barnes Park. One suspect has been arrested, but police are looking for others and witnesses. Rapid antigen tests for COVID-19 are now available for free at some pharmacies for people over the age of 70. They should be more widely available for younger age groups soon. Life coaching has been a popular path for people seeking some guidance to tackle their personal issues. The unregulated industry is crowded with famous names as well as many new entrants, and the business has only grown in popularity during the pandemic. But as the CBC Marketplace team finds out, a lack of oversight can bring potential harm to the clients.
So a life coach helps you dream big and stretch your horizons to create.
You'll find many life coaches marketing their services online, charging hundreds to thousands of dollars. One of the most recognizable?
Hi, it's Tony Robbins, and today I'm very proud to say that I'm the most successful coach of our type in the world.
Problem is, it's an unregulated business with no oversight.
Turn on the mic.
Yeah, how do I sound right now?
And our hidden camera investigation found some coaches are offering advice about mental illness when they're not qualified to treat such serious issues.
Rhonda?
Oh, hi.
Hey.
One of those coaches is Rhonda Gagnon. For this assignment, our producer was pretending to struggle with depression and addiction. He asked Gagnon if he needs treatment.
I can't tell you that. I am not a doctor.
She clearly set her limits as a coach, then flipped the script.
Do you think you can help me with the substance stuff then?
I can. I can help you with ideas of how to cope with it.
Okay.
What your triggers are.
We also asked about her credentials.
I am certified.
Okay. How long did it take?
That took probably about close to 9 months.
Oh, wow. What school?
It is, oh my gosh, I'm so bad with names. It's life coaching.
Okay.
Sorry, I've got my certificate. It's on the website.
We checked her site. It's the Life Coach Training Institute, and it's pretty easy to get certified. We paid $250 to take an online test. Passed on the second attempt, all in about an hour while shopping. Lorraine Bennington is a life coach and a licensed psychologist.
It's dangerous because people are presenting themselves as experts when they're not.
The Life Coach Training Institute says they've made some changes, so it's not as easy to get certified. Meantime, Rhonda says she is qualified to help people because of her life experience and other training. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
That's just one of the coaches Marketplace went undercover with for its investigation into the unregulated world of life coaching. The full piece airs tonight at 8 p.m. on CBC TV. Well, no doubt you've seen a houseboat, but a house on a barge? Well, that's a little more unusual, and the tale of a move by sea is next. At 6:47, you're looking at a live shot down Georgia Street, downtown Vancouver. Oh, more rain to come. Johanna's going to break it all down, and she'll tell us whether we have a break of sunshine at all. What's coming up? Well, if you thought you spotted a two-story home traveling up the Strait of Georgia today, it wasn't a mirage. This 7,000 square foot home is on the move, setting sail from Oak Bay to its new grounds in Saltery Bay. Instead of getting demolished, a buyer offered to pay the moving costs to save this 1935 Tudor-style house. The owner says she's moving the home instead of building a new one for environmental reasons and because it's cheaper. The company behind the project says they move 200 to 300 homes and buildings each year, each with its own set of challenges.
Well, there's a lot of engineering and planning up front. We've been planning this project for about 6 months. It involved a lot of surveys, a lot of scrutinizing of the details. The barging procedure is especially strategic here in the maneuver.
The house is currently on its 18-hour journey. It will be ready to move in about 2 to 3 months. Okay, Joe, looking pretty sunny on that barge out there and where the house is, but I feel like that is the end of the sunshine for us, isn't it?
Yes, that was a last glimpse, although I was thinking for a moment that house would have 360-degree ocean views, so nice they moved on a blue sky day. Now, I think we can find some blue sky in the next 10 days, but it's definitely a shift in the weather pattern, as I mentioned earlier. Let me take you through the current temperatures across the country. Quick look at what's going on from coast to coast. The Arctic air mass is retreating. Notice temperatures recovering. That's a recovery for the prairies. -15 tonight in Regina, close to that in Winnipeg. We're seeing wintry weather, though, descend across Atlantic Canada tonight. Snowfall warnings in place for the Maritimes and Newfoundland and Labrador. It's going to be a wintry weekend on the East Coast. We're just starting to see that high cloud stream in ahead of the change in our weather. That high pressure has sunk south and east. Taking you through tomorrow's forecast. Now, the models, as I mentioned earlier, some bringing the rain in as early as noon. Watch as I take you through that 1-2 p.m. hour. The rain has filled in. Other models holding it off until more like 4, 5, 6 p.m. But I'd be prepared for a showery second half of the day. And notice snow levels look to come down to about 900 meters. So this is fresh snow for our locals. Mount Washington, same story. And the mountain passes will be seeing some snow Saturday into Sunday. Rainfall totals heavier towards Tri-Cities, North Shore, possibly 40 plus millimeters, but everyone getting a general 20 to 30 over this weekend. And that's thanks to this parade of lows tracking up the coast. You can see that purple, though, in the interior or inland coastal sections, I should say. That's the mountain snow. And then we just keep seeing those lows skirt up the coast as they basically take aim on Haida Gwaii. We do have wind warnings in place for 110 kilometer per hour winds tonight into tomorrow from the southeast for both Haida Gwaii and Port Hardy. So that's a very windy start to your weekend. And windy, speaking of, it's going to be gusty here in Vancouver Sunday morning. We could see gusts up to 70 kilometers per hour as we get one of the fronts slide through. Tomorrow, notice we've lost the sunshine across the interior. 0 for Williams Lake, -1 Prince George. Temperatures come out a little. Kootenays, you get one more nice day. So late day showers, or at least second half of the day showers for Saturday. Sunday, notice it's not a washout. Most of the heavy rain for the second half. Monday is a washout. But look at that, Anita. I found some less daunting icons that line up with the model. Some sunshine in there for next week as well.
I was waiting for that. All I saw was rain, 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 rain. But you gave me that hope, Joe. Thank you.
Fridays, we need it on Friday. You're welcome.
A home for eagles that was meant to turn into homes for people has been saved. The financial gift that has saved the animals next.
All right, go for it. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. I have no words. It's amazing. It's way more than I expected.
Oh, Rachel. Do you love it? I hope you love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
Seeing the joy in her face at the reveal today, everybody was crying. Happy tears, but it was just... That's what Candlelighters is here for, to help lift the spirits, to help people through the different stages that they're going through.
I think that
this room for her, especially as a teenager, is a sanctuary. It's a place that she can go. It's a place that, you know, she can have as her own to recuperate, to kind of step away from the cancer and the treatment that she's receiving, and hopefully a place that, you know, she can rest and she can get better.
I'm in the last round of my chemo treatments. It's called maintenance, and this room is gonna help me like recover, and it brings me to a safe space where I can stay, where it's like not in the hospital and not in a stressful environment, and makes me feel a bit, I don't want to say normal, but a bit more regular.
I've tremendously enjoyed going through this process with Rachel. I've discovered just how strong and wonderful and beautiful a human that she is. It could have not been for a better person. And I'm a firm believer that if you do kind things for others, kind things come back to you. So I'm really happy that I could do this for her and give her a space that was all her own, that she could hang out and grow in.
I wanted to talk about how great Krista and the Candlelighters and Killer and all of the people who donated stuff for my room, how great they are and how thankful I am that they even thought of doing this. And I'm really grateful that the Candlelighters and Krista chose me for this room. And yeah.
A Vancouver Island estuary that's home to eagles and dozens of other wild species has taken another step in avoiding the wrecking ball. It's thanks to a financial gift that could prevent the land from being turned into high-density housing. 2 local conservation groups have been fighting since 2018 to protect the 9.5 acres of eagle habitat. The owner of the land near French Creek is closer to averting a plan that goes back to the 90s to turn it into housing. Now he hopes to sell the $5 million property to BC Parks Foundation while gifting almost $3.3 million of the price.
Us being a part of the community means that you know, we can't just be, you know, trying to pull every cent we can out of it, and it just feels right. Another private donation for $1 million came from the founder of Lightspeed, and the regional district of Nanaimo is kicking in $400,000. The BC Parks Foundation hopes to raise remaining $300,000 by the deadline of April 10th. Thanks so much for watching CBC Vancouver News. We'd also like to say goodbye to our friend and colleague, Peter Layton, who is retiring today after 42 years with the CBC. Peter, you will be missed by all of us here. And to all of you, have a wonderful weekend.